Finally, Collingwood win their first game in around 5 weeks. A little bit of reprieve for everyone involved, and maybe a little bit of pressure taken off Collingwood throughout the next week, where we get the opportunity to celebrate Scott Pendlebury's upcoming 400 game milestone, and it just so happens to be against our arch rivals Carlton. So, hopefully, a positive flip in what has been a tumultuous period for the Pies. A very difficult period, given the fall from grace that has been since 2023. But we live through it, and we persevere, and we believe. Today was a game I felt, winning the game by 26 odd points. I felt like it was one of the first games in a long time where I was able to remove myself from parts of the game. And what I mean by that is I didn't have to be glued to the game for the entirety of it. I feel like that can be unhealthy in the sense that when you're always on knife's edge, it does take a lot out of you. And it's clearly taken a lot out of Collingwood over the last 18, 24 months. And it's probably sort of hit its ceiling. And that's one of the reasons why I suppose Collingwood have had hit that proverbial ceiling. So it was nice, and I'm sure without the fact that we weren't able to build as much percentage as we maybe could have probably hoped for earlier in the game, I think besides that, the team would be happy and accepting that, all right, we've got the win under our belt in a reasonably comfortable fashion, and at least I feel that way. Are there still a lot of problems? Yes. There's still things to fix. Fine, that's okay. But that's my acute reflection of the game thus far. And there was a little bit of carnage going into that game, right? The goalie was laid out with that groin that's been hampering him. How bad is it? It's pretty bad. I mean, he's only running straight lines at training just to get his feet past his feet at the starting line of every game, and it's not every game at this point. He's playing every other game. He's played half the season up until this point, I think. So he's sacrificing a lot. You lose a lot of confidence playing injured. He wouldn't have confidence in his body when he's on the field. He doesn't have the power. Anybody who's had a groin injury before would know how debilitating it feels. And it's not, how do you explain? Like us, when you pull a hammy and you can't run. You're done. But with this tendinopathy, osteitis pubis sort of situation, it's a situation where you lose power. You can get through the game, but how you blow up the next day, the following day, and it lingers and doesn't truly heal until you're able to, one, almost go legs up and rest for a bit and completely, and then meticulously work your way or increase and increment your workload very slowly. And because this is, I guess, on the cusp of becoming chronic, this injury that he's had, it's been a couple months now, right? At least I would suggest anything beyond 3 months is chronic, and it transcends far greater than just a physical injury. It becomes an injury that's ingrained in your mind and brain signals, and you're more susceptible to feelings around that area. You're more hyper aware. Anyways, that's a conversation for another day, because I could talk about injuries and how the mind plays its role in it as well. So it's a deep conversation, but I applaud the goalie for trying to get to the starting line every week, and it's just been a difficult year, and probably symbolic of Collingwood's year thus far. So then we get Joe Richards in, and then he's laid out, and then Lockie Sullivan gets an opportunity to play at AFL level as a sub. And talking more to the game now, we struggled from turnover, scores from turnover. Richmond, they scored 58 points from turnover, which is, the average is 48 points in league, and 58 is I guess, what the worst teams are conceding on a weekly basis in 2024. And we know Collingwood have struggled defending from turnover, putting pressure on Darcy Moore, Jeremy Howe, etc., etc., Isaac Quaynor, etc., etc. So it continues to be a problem, and it was a problem against the worst side in the comp. Take that as you will. We had 51 inside 50s. We ran at 51% efficiency going inside 50s, so 51% of the time we did register a scoring shot, which is elite, ranks as elite, which is good. We've always been efficient and elite going into the forward line. It's just a matter of getting it there, which we haven't been able to do. We also had 20 marks inside 50, which is an astronomical number. So that was positive to see. When you got Mason Cox back in the team, Lockie Schultz putting his hand up, McStay, a couple contested marks himself, and just good quality ball movement will typically result in marks inside 50. But at the same time, conversely, 70 turnovers in a game is not ideal. But I think taking the good with the bad, there's the positive. We were still relatively efficient given the volume of inside 50s we had, which was 51, which is something, it's not a number of inside 50s we've been able to reach in a long time. We've struggled to get to 30, 35 in the last 4 or 5 weeks. In saying that, Richmond did beat us an inside 50 count. So, and they were efficient as well. They were wasteful in front of goal. The game could have been closer than what it was expected score wise. I think, yeah, expected score is an interesting one. I don't know how much you can read into it because at the end of the day, if you don't put the ball through the two big sticks, then what does it count for? But the expected score was 93 to 88 in Collingwood's favour, but the actual score was 93 to 67. Richmond had 29 scoring shots. Collingwood had 26 scoring shots. So, interesting to say the least. We had 14 contested marks, which obviously accounts to the marks inside 50 as well. And the uncontested possession dilemma that we're dealing with at the moment continues to plague us. Minus 34 is horrible against a team that doesn't move the ball well, doesn't have a great uncontested possession game in Richmond. They're bottom 2 for uncontested possessions, and we struggled against the bottom side in doing that. But how did we win the game? Well, leading into the game, we talked about Richmond being a terrible clearance side, and then you factor in Sim Taranto gets subbed out early in the game. Dustin Martin's already not in there. So they're depleted in the middle, and then their contested possession game is horrible. So we end up being plus 10 in clearances and plus 12 in contested possessions, which is a massive win for Collingwood. As the game was won in the clinches, we were plus 43 in scores from stoppages against the Tigers, and we also scored 3 goals from centre bounce. So that always helps. Getting easy goals from the centre bounce stoppage is a surefire way to get relatively easy goals when you need something else other than scores from turnover or, I guess, other around the ground stoppages. Talking players, Josh Dacos at the half-back flank. Thank you, Craig. Thank you. We've only been talking about this for the last 4 to 5 weeks. We've only been ranting and raving about how poor our ball movement has been from the defensive half. We tried Sadie there. He's been in and about that area, in and around that area. Noble needs a dance partner. He can't be the first string in that transition. And then, Josh Dacos, we've been begging for it. He ends up having 32 disposals and 7 scoring involvements. He's that polish we need. And with his confidence, he's going to demand the ball and fucking give him the ball. Let him do his thing. And he does it so well. And I hope he spends a lot more time there because, as I mentioned before, we have plenty of depth in the wing position. We have players who can adapt to that position if needed. However, there's not many players that can adapt to the half-back flank position, as well as someone like Josh Dacos possibly could and did today. And then his brother, Nicky Dacos, 42 disposals, equal career high, and he's first half, 26 disposals when the game was there to be won. He was the man. Is he going to win the Brownlow? I hope so. He'll have to fight off Bontempelli, Heaney, even though he's not eligible, so that probably doesn't really count. I think Sarong's around the mark. Treloar, without looking at the odds, I think these players are the ones who are going to be around the mark. I apologise if I'm forgetting anybody else. Darcy Moore finds a little bit of form. I think he was really good relative to where he's been. He had 3 intercept marks, and the other positive was he had 18 disposals at 100% disposal efficiency. So it's a positive step in the right direction for our captain of the Collingwood Football Club. And I hope he can bring that into the game against Carlton, because he's going to have a massive job against Mackay and Curnow. And I think a game where Billy Frampton is somewhat useful is in a game where there is a Mackay and a Curnow in the team. So we're not going to have him there. So we're going to play shorter, and that might be a struggle. But Carlton are having their own issues, and we'll save that for the preview. But good for Darcy Moore. McStay, 3 goals, 2 contested marks. Really positive to see McStay find some form early after a long layoff with that ACL injury, of course. That's always important, because you can use the excuse that you've been injured for a long time and you might mentally let it dwell on it and allow yourself to be poor and unimpactful. But he's almost like fast tracking his return to play, or return to performance, return to where he typically would be. And 3 goals, 2 contested marks, good forward craft, and a long option to kick to is conducive to a good Collingwood side in the long term. And Mason Cox's importance. I mean, I'll be honest, when Nathan Kruger came in, I was like, maybe this could be Cox's final run with the Pies. I thought Kruger could do a lot of things better than what Cox does, and he probably does to a certain extent. He's a bit more erratic and has a lot more ground ball pressure. But what Cox allows to do to help Darcy Cameron rest when he needs it away from the ruck is, you can't put a value on it. It's intangible. And his forward presence, being that aerial nuisance, his ruck craft is quite good as well. His hit outs to advantage usually result into something positive for the Pies. So that was good. Small forwards were firing on all cylinders. Bobby Hill, Lockie Schultz, Jamie Elliott. I think Bobby had 2 goals, 2 goal assists. Was really good. Jamie does what he does best. How can you not love the guy? And Lockie Schultz is good. He battles hard, kicks goals. Has been kicking goals. And I like that Lockie Schultz tries to take a lot of his marks overhead and almost tries to replicate that of Jamie Elliott, who is elite overhead for his size. So I like that Lockie Schultz does not deter away from trying to mark the ball at the highest point, which not every small forward has. And even Bobby Hill has that to a certain extent. He's able to mark the ball overhead, and he's also has the ability to sit on people's shoulders and mark it overhead. So that's probably something Collingwood have that a lot of other teams don't. So it's just unfortunately there's other things that Collingwood aren't doing well at the moment that take away from that beauty. And it's good to see Bobby Hill just get some sort of return on his willingness or want to impact the game. In the last month or so, he's probably done too much with the ball and put himself under too much pressure and put too much responsibility on his single disposal. So, good for him today. Jack Bytel was really good, 25 touches, 6 score involvements. I suggested that after watching him against Geelong in the VFL side, the VFL game, I thought, man, this guy, while he's in form, playing well at VFL level, get him in. And he had to have a couple more good games in the VFL, which is fine. But I thought he was good from what I saw. Please, if you guys saw otherwise or thought otherwise, let me know. But I think Bytel has an opportunity to be a part of this team in the future. And I saw it at a lesser level at the VFL, but it somewhat translated in this game. Mr. Pendlebury, SB10, 22 disposals, the second highest rated player in the game, despite the 55% time on ground due to being subbed out. Rest up, young man. Big game 400 coming up next week. So, yeah, I think he kicked a goal as well. And these are the games where you just have to admire him and appreciate what we have while we've got him. On a sour note, Lipinski, I've just noticed he's fallen off in the last 5 weeks on an individual level. He's had a sub 8 rated. How do I explain this? So, player ratings, right? In the last 5 games, he's rated lower than 8 in his last 5 games. For reference, in his first 10 games, he was averaging around the 15 rating mark, with 2 games of those being rated above 20. So he's had a bit of a fall off. I don't know what it is. Is it the nature of the half forward flank role / wing, where sometimes you're on the wrong side of the ground and the ball's on the other side? I'm not too sure. So just keep a tab on that. I trust that he'll find some form again. I think Collingwood are a better side when Lipinski is playing well. So that's why I just wanted to note that more than anything. I'm not trying to knock him down. I'm just saying when Lipinski plays better, Collingwood are better for it. The positive to finish this was the fact that we come out of this game with no injuries, thankfully. And hopefully going into next week, we get Beau McCreary back, Geordie DeGoey, Joe Richards hopefully can try to put his hand up. I thought it was a bit suspect that he got dropped in the first place. Don't get me started. And we're still a chance for finals. We are. We're a game and percentage out, so we're technically 2 games out, but there's still what? Carlton, Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane. Still 4 games, and other teams have difficult fixtures. The Hawks obviously won against Adelaide, didn't do us any favours, Adelaide. And Sydney got pummeled by the Dogs and did us no favours. So thanks for nothing, but that's okay. We've got to do it on our own accord, and that's the best way to go about it. Have the ball in your court, which we don't have it at the moment. It's on the other side. So let's see where we go in the next 4 weeks and keep riding the waves. And I think there's going to be lots to look forward to this week, and I'm really excited despite everything that has happened this year. I'm really keen just to soak it up and enjoy it. And I hope you guys can all join us for that. And yeah, go watch the Scott Pendlebury documentary that's just come out over the last couple of days. Plenty of live streams, Pie performers tomorrow rating all the Collingwood players. We'll do the Pies footy show. We'll do the Moving the Magnets, where we watch the teams or talk about the teams as they get released on Thursday night. Plenty of content to come. Go Pies.